stopped me from doing that. So please get used to IPBES. Formally, the platform was established in April 2012 in Panama City after a series of intergovernmental consultations. For those of you who know the whole history, you wouldn't probably listen to me, but it took some time before governments agreed to establish the platform. The initial initiative came from the French government. Eventually, we merged it with the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment Follow-up, and the government decided then to organize discussions and came up with the establishment of the platform in Panama City, and just shortened in the interest of time. It is an interface between science and policy. One of the key recommendations that came from the evaluation of the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment was to say we have a lot of science. We don't know everything, but we know enough to act. We also have policymakers who want to make informed decisions about ecosystems, services, ecosystem management, and so forth. So how can we facilitate the interface between the scientific community and the policymaking community? There are gaps that have been identified, including from the IPBES process itself, the intergovernmental process, to essentially say we know that scientific information takes 20 to 25 years before it gets to the attention of policymakers. There's a lot there that needs to be probably reduced. We also know that there are some gaps in the way science is being done at the moment. There are some scientific bodies from the multilateral environmental agreements. There are some scientific institutions that are working separately, but we know that there are gaps. And for those of you who were following the IPBES negotiations, who now that the Director General of IUCN is here, I would like to welcome her and see if
Sorry.
Do you want to say anything now? Or?
I want to say something, but not before you finish.
Yeah. Thank you.
Of course. How could I even think of it?
Essentially, there are some gaps that need to be filled, and the point here is to say how these gaps can be filled by the IPBES and bring together all the actors. 4 main functions have been identified for the IPBES. The first is knowledge generation. What do we mean by that? To basically prioritize key information, key scientific information for policymakers, and catalyze efforts to generate new knowledge for science, for biodiversity and ecosystem services. However, it was made clear by governments that the IPBES should not directly undertake new research. It should generate knowledge from existing science. The second main function is regular and timely assessments. In order to update ourselves, we need to do regular assessments at the global level, at the regional level, and where appropriate, at the sub-global level, to continue to update ourselves and continue to support policymakers in their decisions. And the third function, therefore, is to support policy formulation and implementation based on the knowledge that would have been generated by the second function that we mentioned. The fourth function, which is critically important as well, is to continue to build capacity, our capacity, all of us, but mostly from the developing countries, but not limited to, in order to continue to update ourselves and again to generate cutting-edge knowledge and cutting-edge information that will be useful to all of us. There's a soup of principles. We try to put them in different colors so that you can easily read them. I'm not going to go into more details here, But these are the kind of principles that have been identified by governments. Let me just take a few of them. Gender equity, that normally should not come straight into your mind. That the approach should be bottom-up, not top-down. That the IPBES should be policy relevant, but not policy prescriptive. There are many other principles here. I will let you read them. I will give you some time to read the slide. But these are the different principles that were adopted by governments at the intersessional, at the consultative meeting, which actually took place here in Korea in Busan. The stakeholders are diverse, from governments, including through the biodiversity and ecosystem services related conventions, UN bodies and intergovernmental organizations, but also the scientific community, private sector, civil society organizations, indigenous peoples, donors, etc., etc. So there's a range of stakeholders that have been identified, because everybody has a role to play. IPBES is structured in 3 different layers. First is the plenary, which is the ultimate decision-making body of the platform, where governments will come to meet and make decisions, but also the other stakeholders will be invited as well. Decisions will be made by governments. Currently, there are 92 state members, essentially those who signed up to the establishment of the platform, minus a couple of countries who support the process but are not ready yet to join. But we will probably see more countries coming. This is pretty good in terms of departure point, because a large number of countries have expressed the interest to join as well. The second is the Bureau, which will be overseeing the administrative functions of the platform, which will be formed of 10 members, 2 from each of the 5 UN regions. A multidisciplinary expert panel, MEP, will be overseeing the scientific and technical functions, 25 members, 5 from each of the UN regions. So these are the 3 main structures of the platform. In terms of activities, of course, the activities will be identified by the work program as adopted by the plenary. So the plenary will have to agree on the work program. But these are the kind of potential activities that will be undertaken by the platform. Regular assessments, as we mentioned earlier on, but also thematic assessments that will be policy relevant, coming from emerging issues. There is an emerging issue that is coming up, so the IPBES can be requested by the plenary to undertake some thematic assessments in order to provide them with scientific information that is needed for decision making. Capacity building and technical support for national assessments. The IPBES is not expected to undertake assessments at the national level itself, because governments are sovereign to undertake the assessment at the national level, but some countries may need some technical support and some capacity building. So the IPBES can also, as agreed by the plenary, undertake some activities to build capacity at the national level. It is critical that we have one common framework and agreed tools for assessments, because we cannot compare pears and oranges. So it is very important. This is one of the problems we have at the moment, because we have a catalog of assessments, but they are not necessarily compatible with using methodologies that would be compatible and easy to aggregate so as to provide information that is relevant to decision makers. And that is one of the challenges we have at the moment, where 5 reports will land in the desk of a minister coming from 5 different scientific institutions or scientific bodies, but then yet the minister is unable to make a decision because they don't have a coherent information. This mouse, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. In terms of policy support, again, potential activities will be to overview policy relevant knowledge, tools and methods. It is partnerships, you mentioned partnership with IUCN and others. It is critical to develop these partnerships and to promote effective tools through communications and capacity building, and also to develop some additional activities in terms of synthesizing knowledge and information. Again, there's a long list here. I don't think it would be useful to read the whole list, but just to give you an idea of the kind of activities that will be undertaken. The current process on IPBES includes the need to resolve still some issues of procedures. The rules of procedures have not been completed yet. A lot has been done already, especially at the last meeting in Panama, but it is very important to complete this, and we hope that government will come to an agreement at the next plenary meeting. The work program also needs to be developed and agreed upon by parties, by governments, maybe at the next meeting or maybe in a second plenary to come. Again, it depends on how fast governments will be able to move at the next meeting. Now you want to know when the next meeting is going to take place.
Yes.
It will be in Bonn, Germany, 21st to 26th of January. Please come with reports. The weather will be wonderful there, as you know, and it is very important to say that the government of Germany has been extremely generous in organizing this meeting, and I think you will all enjoy the hospitality of the German government and their capacity to organize these meetings. As you know, the last meeting in Panama had agreed that the Secretariat will be located in Bonn. It will be in the UN building in Bonn, and I can assure you the Secretariat office space has already been identified, and the German government is actually ready now to host the Secretariat. The Secretariat will not have a Secretariat yet. It will be meet in Bonn to agree on final modalities for the establishment of the Secretariat long term. I don't know if I responded to your need to update the meeting. If there are questions, please don't address them to me, address them to the panel that will be coming afterwards.
Thank you, Ibrahim. So before I give the floor to Julia, just to say a few words, she couldn't say when we started. I did explain what was going on. So I think the presentation was very useful. He told us why we need IPBES, what it will do for function, and even examples of specific activities under each of the four functions, the principles under which it will operate, who are the stakeholders, it's the structure, the governance of the platform, and then an update on the process, including the meeting coming in Bonn in next January. And what I really took from his last slide is all of us, all of you are needed to make this platform work. And this is what we will hear when we have our panel discussion in a few minutes. So, but now let me call on Julia to come and say a few words and explain what
Give me your hand and I'll jump up. Oh, thank you. Thank you, Steve. Bonjour, hello. Sorry, I hope you didn't expect that I was in deep negotiation, but since some of you sitting in this room have been in my position, like Ibrahim, and also Simon, you know exactly what the Director General can and cannot do during a World Conservation Conference. Anyway, I just want to say, first of all, I don't know how many of you know that I'm old, well, I'm sure you know that I'm old enough, but that I was actually very much involved working in the International Council for Science in the establishment of the IPCC. And so I'm very much in favor of this platform that brings scientists and policymakers together. There's no need to cry over history by saying, I wish this would have happened, years and years ago. But the good thing is it's happening finally. And I'm very glad that I met, I'm no longer at ISU, I'm glad to see the president ICSU here, Professor Lee, but now I'm at IUCN, so I can maybe bring his experience to IUCN, and everyone in IUCN is totally committed to the IPBES. I wish we had an easier acronym, and I'm very glad to see this poster. I hadn't seen it, Siri, it's great. I brought along the booklet about our knowledge products. We have really important and practical things to provide, and Ibrahim, of course, we speak the same language. And you said very, very clearly, there's no need for a lot of new research. A lot of things exist already, and not everything comes from IUCN and its members. Remember, when we say IUCN here, it's shorthand for the members, 1,272 of them, for the commissions, 6 commissions, more than 11,000 volunteer scientists, and the secretariat, which is really the servant of the system. So IUCN, shorthand for those 3 strands. So IUCN is absolutely ready and has been involved since the beginning, when the acronym even had a more impossible definition, IMO7. So we're ready, and we think that we have some very specific input that we can make, certainly our knowledge products, both through the science and the effective management. And also, I think, very much the capacity building. We really need to not only build the capacity of the policymakers, but we also need to build the capacities of the scientific community to be able to provide advice and information to policymakers in a way that is feasible. Kind of an age-old hope, this one. But I know that at ICSU too, we always had the same challenge. How can science explain itself clearly and quickly and efficiently to decision makers? So IUCN stands absolutely ready. Not as of today. We've been working on this with you, and it's very nice that we're doing it in close partnership with you, of course. And also, of course, the fact that we had no vote about where the Secretariat was going to go. The government decided Bonn. As you all know, we have one part of the distributed IUCN Secretariat in Bonn, our Environmental Law Center, which actually holds one of the knowledge products, which is called Ecolex, right there. So I think there will be a lot of very close communication between the IPBES Secretariat and the IUCN Secretariat in Bonn and elsewhere in the world. So Avanti, let's get going and let's get this thing really started, and I'll bring my warm coat to Bonn in January. So thank you very much, and I'm so sorry I have to have another meeting, but you got everybody here much stronger than I am, and you know very well that we're very closely involved and strongly involved. Thank you. In good shape to be Director General of IUCN. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. So, as she said, and I had said in the beginning, IUCN is really keen to support IPBES. And we're going to have now a presentation from IUCN, which is a joint presentation from Simon, to be given by Simon Stewart, who is the chair of our Species Survival Commission, and James Smart, who is the global director of our Biodiversity Conservation Program. And they are going to focus on some of the things that Julia highlighted, the knowledge products that IUCN is developing, has developed, will continue to develop, which we think can be beneficial for a partnership between IPBES and ourselves. So Jane and Stuart, Simon, please.
Thanks very much, Siri, and it's great to be able to participate in this. As often happens, we have many things going on in this Congress. I've actually just been opening another workshop and they have to go back to, and so I'm going to give half of this talk. I'm then going to leave, I'm afraid, and Jane will give the other half. But what we're going through is all of the knowledge products existing and under development at IUCN. And here you can see them all listed. And you can also get this extremely rare, tiny valuable little booklet, which is great, about each knowledge products. Jane's going to sell them for $200,000 each. Oh, she's just given one to the US State Department. Jane, okay. But she's got a stack there, and it's a very useful summary of each knowledge product. I'm going to run through just a few of them and then hand over to Jane. Can we have the next slide, please, Pierre? IUCN was heavily involved in the IPBES negotiations. We were there in force in Panama to see the historic moment when the IPBES came into existence. That was great after all those years from innocent to IPBES to reality. And these are the 3 points that we emphasized, particularly during the negotiations. Next slide. We have been advocating, and especially in the last 2 rounds of negotiations, IUCN has been advocating for a partnership between ourselves and IPBES, and we feel that there's a number of ways in which we can help to advance the whole agenda that IPBES has, acting as a source of information in some areas, that one, providing some operational support,